Good evening, everybody. For those who can join me tonight, welcome. And if you're watching it later on, well, I'm glad you are listening to this. Boy, is it hot. I've moved into a different part of the house, actually. This isn't my office. It may sound a bit echoey in here, actually. I'm not sure, but it's so hot. This is the coolest room in the house, where I'm not baking and I'm not baking too much. So I thought I'd move here so at least I can talk comfortably without a fan blasting air in my face and sort of drowning out my voice potentially. I decided to pop back into my Peyton Principles Natural Health Facebook page tonight rather than put this into my closed group. It's an important topic actually, and it's all about COVID and how to manage your lifestyle, how to sort of give you some helpful hints and tips to what I say, set you on the path to a healthier lifestyle. So it's about 2 weeks ago now, 27th of July, that Boris Johnson declared a new strategy to tackle obesity, to help people on the path to losing weight, because some of the early statistics that are coming out from what has happened this year with coronavirus and risk factors, and obviously with Boris Johnson himself, is that the more overweight you are, the greater the risk, the greater the likelihood you're going to have more complications with COVID. And so Boris Johnson has declared this government strategy, to tackle obesity and to tackle people being overweight. But it's not the easiest thing in the world to follow. I still think it's contradictory to what people should be doing. So I thought I'd just go through in the next 20 minutes, it might be slightly longer tonight, some of the things that I think are really important, some of the questions you may have or you may not have, or any confusion you have. I hope that I'm going to do my best to take some of that confusion away. If you're watching, do pop in and say hello. Whilst I'm going along, if you've got any questions, then pop them in. I'll do my best to catch them as I see them as I go along. So yeah, Boris's obesity plan, he talks about calorie counting. Yet again, this obsession that we have with calorie counting, and as that is going to solve the problem, and I'll explain why it is not going to solve the problem. How can we eat out? We've got this current scheme encouraging us to go and eat out on Monday to Wednesday, and we can save a significant amount of money. Can we? Can we still eat out and eat healthily without this impacting on weight gain? I would say yes, we can, and I'll give you some tips about that. And I'm going to go through some other things that often come up when people are trying to lose weight and see, there may be things that you've thought of before. Obviously, this is just a snapshot. So I just want to give you a snapshot of things that could help you on that path to healthy eating. If you're interested, I have a 30-day reset plan that enables people to work with individuals, weekly calls, the longer one, then several follow-up shorter calls, which I am reducing for anybody who's interested. To start that now in August, I'm reducing by £50. So do DM me or get in touch with me through various channels or via my website if you'd like to know more about that, with me helping you, helping to keep you accountable, helping you decide what to eat. Then do get in touch with me. So what should you be eating to be a healthy weight, and should you count calories? I'm going to put these two things together now, because calories, it is an outdated model for being healthy and for being a healthy weight, and I'll just explain why that is. Now, when we count calories, the lowest two macronutrients when we count calories are carbohydrates and protein, that are 4 calories per gram. Whereas if you count fat, it's 9 calories. Fat is significantly greater, more than double in calories compared to carbohydrates. Let's keep protein to one side for the moment, because we need to eat protein, and protein isn't going to influence this calorie counting concept. So we go out to eat a meal and they're going to start putting calorie counts, or Boris would say, well, we ought to put the calorie count on this meal. So if you imagine you eat an enormous jacket potato, for example, which is potato, which is carbohydrate, the calorie count for that jacket potato, and I haven't done my maths here, I'm just giving an example, the calorie count in that potato may well be significantly less than if you ate a piece of oily fish like salmon with avocado, maybe sprinkled with toasted pine nuts, for example, with maybe a salad on the side. So what is going to be healthier for you? If you only count calories, you go for the jacket potato, hopefully served with some sort of protein, you know, tuna mayonnaise, for example. You may go for the jacket potato thinking that is my healthier option. If I want to lose weight, I'm going to go and eat the jacket potato, no matter how big it is, because when I look at the calories on that, it's significantly lower. Whereas if you look at the salmon with avocado, maybe with some toasted pine nuts, the calorie count may be significantly higher. You'd steer away from it because you say, if I want to be a healthy weight, I'm being told that that is not my healthy option. So let me just briefly try and explain why this calorie counting concept is outdated and it just does not work. And it's all to do with how your body metabolizes its macronutrients and metabolizes its food. And it links back very closely with this concept of blood sugar and glucose, because when we eat carbohydrates, they break down to simple sugars. Simple sugars like glucose raise our blood sugar levels. When our blood sugar level is raised for prolonged periods of time or excessively raised, the body utilizes the glucose, and if it can't utilize it for energy, it stores it as fat. And that is a fact. The fact is that excess sugars, glucose in the bloodstream will get stored eventually as fat. The excess weight that's carried around our midriff predominantly is mostly caused by excess carbohydrate intake, wherever that carbohydrate is coming from, such as pasta and bread and any other refined carbohydrates or even complex carbohydrates. They're carbohydrates, they'll break down slower than the refined white ones, but they are still going to raise your blood sugar levels. Whereas fats have no impact on our blood sugar level. You will get fuller much quicker eating fats like salmon and avocado and some toasted pine nuts than you would if you eat a jacket potato. And very, very quickly you will be hungry again after eating something like potato or pasta. Whereas your salmon and avocado is going to keep you fuller for much longer. You won't be able to eat so much. You won't want to reach for another snack or something else soon after. You won't get hungry that much very quickly. It's going to keep you going, and it isn't going to convert to fat, even though it is a fat. Your body will utilize that so much better than the simple or even refined starchy types of carbohydrates that we're being encouraged to eat more of when we count calories. So I hope that makes some sense to you. Don't count calories. You've got to think about a balanced plate. So a realistic way that you want to think about, I'm going to hold a picture up to you, and it's called my healthy plate ratio. I'm just going to hold this up for you to see. And in my healthy ratio, what you can see here is a lot of green on this plate, and it's a sort of how you divide your plate up, where you eat 45% of your plate should be vegetables, non-starchy, mostly non-root type vegetables or salads. The purple here is about a third of your plate with protein and fat. And as you can see in the yellow, which is about 20%, is a very small amount of your starchy types of carbohydrates, whether that's pasta, bread, if you're eating crackers, rice, anything like that, pastry, and your pizza base. If you think about a pizza, it's going to be the starchy carbohydrate with the wheat, and you're going to have a little bit of topping, but not much more. So that's how you want to be aiming to eat your meals. Other things to think about is, should you think about intermittent fasting? It's got various names. It's called the 5-2. It's called intermittent fasting. I also call it time restricted eating. The concept being that on potentially 2 days of the week, hence this concept of 5-2 diet, on 2 days of the week, you sort of shrink over the period of time that you eat. For example, you may eat between lunchtime, midday and 6 p.m. in the evening, and you will eat your meals between those hours. Should you be doing that? The only time I recommend people do this is when they do not show symptoms of blood sugar imbalance, i.e. they do not struggle if they go for a prolonged period of time without eating. They don't sort of get the shakes. They're not craving something sugary or a cup of tea or something like that to try and raise their blood sugar level back up again. If you find that you can do that, then I would recommend you think about doing that a couple of times a week. But I wouldn't do it every day because your body gets used to it. The body will get used to the fact that it's never having breakfast. And I believe that that can slow your metabolism down. I think the best thing you can do is to shake things up a bit and do different things on different days. So linked to that is, should you skip breakfast? And it goes back to that concept of balancing blood sugar. My view is, if you're starting out on trying to get into healthy eating, you focus on eating 3 healthy meals in the sort of range that I just talked about. Although I recognize that for breakfast, you wouldn't be putting half a plate of vegetables unless you want to have eggs with spinach and mushrooms and tomato, then you would be doing that. You do need the protein and fats, however, not just a bowl of refined cereal wouldn't work. So focus on having 3 balanced meals, breakfast, lunch and dinner, rather than just going straight to skipping breakfast. There's a probability if you skip breakfast, you may try and eat extra later on in the day, or you may get to mid-morning and you crave something to eat and you start snacking. My next thought is, as much as possible, you want to shrink down the amount of times you eat during a day. The way you achieve that is being able to get your meals balanced, because if you balance your meals, you won't be hungry. You will not be hungry between your main meals. You should find that this concept of satiety and being able to keep going and feeling full should sustain you from one main meal to the other. And if you're beginning to snack, either it's out of habit, or if you're feeling hungry, there is something wrong with the way you've put that meal together. So ideally, don't skip breakfast, have 3 main meals a day, but try and stick to those 3 main meals a day so that you don't have to snack in between. What we know, not just with about keeping blood sugar level balanced, but every time there is this release of insulin that is released in corresponding amounts after we've eaten, if there's a prolonged amount of insulin, or if insulin is released over a prolonged amount of time, then research shows that when we've got raised amounts of insulin, it could impact on our ability to burn fat. So if you're trying to lose weight, then it's really important thinking about this concept of keeping blood sugar balanced and not snacking in between. So that's something else to think about. You're not going to do everything that I'm talking about all in one go. It's a journey you go on. But these are just some snippets that I can give you today to try and set you on that path to eating a bit healthier. Slimming clubs. I'm not going to go into the names of slimming clubs. I'm not going to go into the names of different types of these drinking, smoothie, protein shake type diets you can go on. The reality is they don't work, because why is it that somebody signs up for one of these companies and goes off for 4 months from January to April and notices that they're doing really, really well, and then they stop going and the weight starts to creep back up again? The reality is there is no significant success rate in these clubs to keep the weight off, because they don't necessarily and teach you very well about how to eat day to day in public. And my experience and what I know is that they still, to a degree, seem to be a bit hung up about fats. and potentially counting calories. And I really, really hate the concept of talking about sin type foods, because you know, that just puts us on a diet and off a diet and on a diet and off a diet. So they rarely work long term. Yes, there will of course be some people that say they've done that and they've lost its weight and it's worked brilliantly for them and they become ambassadors for these companies, and isn't it fantastic? But for the majority of people that I speak to or I have as clients, they haven't had the long-term success by trying to do these things, and they spend a significant amount of money as well. So they don't tend to work because they're not teaching you how to eat in a healthy way day to day, long term. In terms of, you know, realistic weight loss, you shouldn't be aiming to lose more than about 2 pounds a week. That's frustrating when we want to get the weight off, but it's really important that we think about this as a long-term healthy eating plan rather than just a short, sharp diet plan. It's not a diet plan, it's a healthy eating plan. I think the wording of that is really important, and just focus on this eating healthily in terms of the way I've explained it, and try and get away from thinking about it as a diet. That's so important for the long-term success. And this 80-20 rule in my head, Pareto rule, of 80% of the time, if you can be focused on eating in a healthy way, the other 20%, maybe 90-10, but you get my drift. We shouldn't need to worry. It's perfectly fine from time to time to have a piece of cake. It's perfectly fine to eat some ice cream occasionally. I'm probably saying that because I do it occasionally. But the reality is we can eat healthily and still have these other types of foods when we're socializing, when we're out with friends, when we're going out for dinner, without having to feel guilty about it and without it having a detrimental effect on a long-term plan. The final point I wanted to talk about is about this sort of eating out at the moment. You know, can you eat out? It's something I talk to clients about and try and help them understand how to eat out in a healthy way. First of all, you know, partly you've got to think about where you're going to eat out. You don't need to be going to Michelin-starred restaurants to be eating healthily, but you do need to look very closely at the menus and trying to choose the healthier options. And what I mean by that is not a bowl of pasta with a tomato sauce on top. That is not your healthy option when I'm talking about reducing your starchy carbohydrate intake. It may well be you order a burger and you don't have the bun, or you think about having the bun but you don't have the chips. And most likely, if you're going for your burger option on a menu, you really need to be ordering a side dish of salad or a side dish of vegetables, because usually these types of meals do not come with hardly any vegetables at all. So think about ordering. You know, most places have these as a side order. They probably want to just get a bit of extra money in, but if it's half price at the moment, then you can do that if you're eating out Monday to Wednesday. But, you know, think about ordering the extra vegetables. I've been out before and I've actually said, I don't want the chips, but can I have extra peas? And they usually bring that to me. They don't go, well, that's going to cost you more money if you want more peas on your plate. They bring that to you. If you're going out for something like fish and chips, just try not to eat all the batter. You know, maybe you want to eat some of it, but just try and put the rest to one side. And ideally, you might order the salmon option on the menu or other types of white fish on the menu. If you want to go for a steak, there is far worse things on the menu than eating the steak. But again, be careful about the chips, because it's not so much the chips that are a problem, it's the sheer volume of chips that they put on the plate. I mean, we are so like America now when food is served in this country in a lot of places. It's a disgrace in my view in terms of the way meals are served up, where your plate is swimming, if that could be the right word, with huge portions of chips, when what we need in terms of the way I just described that is just 20% of your plate should be chips. It's fine to eat a few chips. It's just getting those ratios right. I think for eating out, if you're vegetarian or vegan, can be quite tricky unless it's a type of restaurant that really caters for that type of market. Because typically on the menu, when you eat out as a vegetarian or vegan, it's pasta or it's a risotto based dish, and it's so very, very high in starchy carbohydrates. I think it can be quite challenging. If you can go out and you can find a vegetarian dish that's with chickpeas or lentils, then that's going to be much, much better for you. And hopefully it's cooked with lots of other vegetables alongside that as well. It's going to be such a much, much better option to choose when you're eating out. Can you eat a curry? I think yes, but it goes back to the same principles. You know, don't think, oh my God, curry is the unhealthiest thing in the world. I eat lots of curry. You only have to ask my family. But I don't eat much rice. And I don't really eat the naan bread. If I do, I have one mouthful of it if it's been shared amongst lots of us. I certainly don't eat a whole portion of rice to myself. I probably eat a third of a portion of the rice, but I do have the prawn dish, or I might have the chicken dish, and it's usually with spinach, or I order a side dish with spinach and chickpeas in, or lentil dal, or something like that, which ups the protein, it ups the fibre, it ups the vegetable count, and I'm not eating a lot of the starchy the rice or the bread alongside it, and I don't normally have a starter. So it is possible. It just takes a little bit of thought looking at the menu about what you're choosing, but it is most definitely possible to choose food and eat out that's not going to be detrimental to any healthy eating plan, because it might be one meal out a week or less than that, and the rest of the time you can be putting together your own meals. I think that sort of covered everything I was going to talk about. I can see there's some people watching. I don't know if you've got any comments about any of that. I hope that makes sense. It should be quite logical to follow. And if anyone is interested in working with me on, you know, my 30-day reset program to help you sort of just get back on track and get some focus over what you're eating, and it's tailor-made and personal to you, then do get in touch with me, because I'm offering £50 off that until the end of the month. So I think that covers everything that I wanted to touch on today. Please, please, please don't think about the calorie counting. But do think about these sort of healthy ratios where predominantly the meal is vegetable based, third is protein with some fats, and only about 20% of the plate should be your starchy carbohydrates. And if you start eating in that way, you should be well on your way to helping either maintain a healthy weight or help with some weight loss over time. Thanks for watching today. Hope you found this useful. Should be back next week. It may be in my closed Facebook group. I wanted to do this one today. I wanted to reach out to some more people about this topic today, but mostly I'm putting my talks into my closed Facebook group. I'm going to do more come September. I'll be doing more than one video Facebook Live every single week in my closed group. It is called sort of IBS Relief, but it's going to go way beyond talking about digestive health and just general health overall as well. So do pop over. At the top of my page here is the information that you can click on to join that group. So please come and join if you haven't done so already. And thanks for listening. Enjoy this hot weather if you can sleep. And I'll catch up with you next week. Bye.